What is going on, SoFi fans? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. So SoFi had their Q2 earnings yesterday, another home run earnings. I'm going to go over some of the recent highlights, what analysts are doing, and some of the data points. So I'm going to go over all that. Make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So yesterday there was a new 52-week high created at $11.70. Today is pulling back a little bit, so currently down 8.69%, and that is largely because of two things. The broader market, a lot of the growth stocks are starting to pull back, so it's kind of getting that. In addition to any stock whatsoever that does go up 20%, there is going to be a fair amount of profit taking. So I think this is kind of getting hit with a twofold event. So kind of normal in that regard. There's a ton of volume, so 55 million shares being traded, 59 is the average, and it's been open, or the market's been open around 3 hours, so fairly good in that regard. When it comes down to their earnings, these are some of the highlights that did come out. And so starting off looking at the adjusted net revenue, it is up 37% year over year. And when they're talking year over year, that's actually a pretty big deal, because technically this time last year was the very first quarter that they were a chartered bank. So of course, any previous earnings, so for instance Q4 and stuff like that, when they were comparing themselves to that time last year, they weren't a chartered bank. So again, these, when they're talking on year over year and it's up 37%, that is a pretty substantial deal. New members in Q2 did go up 584,000. And of course, I think based on the Q2 earnings, they did say that that was largely because of them raising the APY and just a lot of the actual other acquisitions that they've done, one of which was through Expedia, so the travel and various other things. So I think this is definitely looking fairly good and will continue to do so as well. But no matter what, it was up 44% year over year. Products 43% up year over year, and deposits, even though this did come out and it was floating around saying that it was 3.2 billion in deposits in Q2, so these were the leaked documents, doesn't look like they were necessarily correct, but close. 2.7 billion it was versus the 3.2 as what's stated here. But it's still, no matter what though, up 26%. And looking at some of their financial services, very, very impressive. So for instance, Money, Invest, credit card, referral loans, Relay, At Work. Invest was lagging a little bit, but I do believe that they did a very big update near the tail end of Q2, so hopefully that'll help in that regard. But no matter what, I think a lot of people already do realize that SoFi Invest has been lagging and there's a lot of room for improvement. So definitely I think that one is going to be a up and comer, but still, no matter what, I think this is a fairly good thing. And credit cards going up 53%, if that was more of in relation to kind of the amount that Invest or Money has, then I feel like people would be worried a little bit as far as the risk or additional risks increasing. But no matter what, I think this is a fairly good thing. So the fact that it's pulling back a little bit, I do feel that this dip is going to get bought up fairly fast. As well, when it comes down to analysts, there was a fair handful of analysts. So it does look like Jefferies did give a buy rating, $15 target, Credit Suisse neutral, $9.50, Bank of America, $11.50, Keefe, oddly enough, did downgrade it to a $7 target, and it's kind of interesting. So I think a lot of people on the side note are waiting for Wedbush. So Wedbush has just been a joke altogether, and I think their last rating was right here. So looks like, where was it? Right here. So 22 days ago. So David, who only has a 37% success rating, I believe they initially started with a $2.50 rating, upped it to $3, reiterated that $3. So they are very, very doubtful on SoFi bigger picture. So he's definitely eating his words a little bit. But Piper Sandler also did reiterate it with a $8 hold rating, 63% success rating, Ashwin 60%. So a lot of the good analysts are giving fairly good ratings right now. So once again, let me know you guys' thoughts on that in the comments below. As far as other data points, I'll go over options activities. So currently there is $11 million in calls being purchased today versus 4.85 million in puts. So technically, based on everything, 64% bullish. So based on this information, clearly people are anticipating for SoFi to clearly get bought up very fast and continue to trend up. Based on the options activity, looking at the grid view, has all the strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this upcoming coming Friday, it is anticipated to go anywhere between the $10 to $12 range. So clearly people don't anticipate it to go below $10. As far as big money buying, these are all the transactions that have occurred on the secondary market today, majority of which is biased. So you can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. So first thing in the morning, 7.71 million, but still, no matter what, I think the overall frequency in comparison to previous days or other days is a little bit lower. So again, there's kind of that. Dark pool, oddly enough, is kind of low as well. So there has been 6 transactions today on the dark pool. Some people don't like the dark pool because it's very much linked to shorting. So I'll give you guys a good overview of that. So currently 14.99% of the free float's being shorted. 120.65 million shares overall are being shorted. Today, they're returning 44,000 shares. So it's kind of a drop in the bucket. Cost to borrow average is 0.72%. So kind of low. So even going into the Q2 earnings, it was more of a hopeful dream that shorts would kind of return some of their position, because looking at this chart right here, I'll kind of break this down, get rid of all the unnecessary stuff. Oddly enough, when SoFi did rally as much as it has been, they were very doubtful. So they increased a pretty significant amount over the last little bit right here. So once again, they kind of are still doubtful about SoFi, because it did go from around 11.5% short interest to 16.28%. So once again, let me know your viewpoint on that. As far as these 2 data points, it shows that the number of retail investors are getting out today, and that is based on the momentum indicator. So maybe profit taking, various things like that. Stochastic, it is a little bit more of a bullish sentiment right now, and it is at 65. So if it does go up a little bit more, then it'll be considered a little bit overbought and might need to pull back. But still, I do feel that based on the Q2 earnings that was said, this dip has really solidified the upward momentum of SoFi. And I think overall as well, a lot of people are starting to realize that the bear market is over and then it's time for an expansion. But of course, that's just my own interpretation. Who isn't a financial advisor? So with it being at $10.53, it is currently between the P and the R1. It conveniently did bounce off of this pivot point. So the 1034 kind of had the low of 1036 today, and $11.10 was the high today. So of course, looking at this between the P and the R1, the spread is pretty vast. So there is going to be a lot of volatility, at least in the short term. So of course, 1034 is the next big support. 1180 is that next big resistance. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that we're going to surpass, for instance, 1180 first, or do you think we're going to break below the $10 mark? What's your viewpoint on all of that? As well, when it comes down to the earnings, what else stood out from you? I know I kind of only touched a brief amount by just the highlights and the financial products and so forth, but what else stood out to you? Was there any other aspect that was amazing? I know they did say that the FICO score, I think, did go down a little bit in comparison to previous quarters. I think it went down to 720, if I remember correctly. I don't know, I could be wrong. That's just based on my memory. Once again, if you guys are looking for a lot of good compiled information, you can always take a look at transcripts and so forth on Seeking Alpha Premium. I do have a 14-day free trial for you guys in the description below. So it has SEC filings, transcripts, everything under the sun, if you are interested to hear exactly what good old Anthony Noto and various other individuals did say. But if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, if you do like my channel, want to support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below and also the comments. With that said, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on SoFi.